The Galactic Apex Council had seen civilizations rise and fall across 11,000 years of recorded interstellar history. They had cataloged species that breathed methane, creatures that communicated through gravitational pulses, and one particularly unsettling race that reproduced through collective memory. Nothing surprised them anymore. Until Earth applied for membership. Varek of the Sorith Collective adjusted the crystalline lens over his secondary eye cluster and reviewed the application file for the 43rd time. The data refused to make sense no matter how many times he read it. Species, human. Homeworld, Earth, Sol System. Civilization age, approximately 6,000 years, recorded. Interstellar travel achieved, 200 years ago. Current territory, 14 star systems. 14 star systems in 200 years. The Sorith had taken 800 years to claim their second system. He set the file down on the council table and looked across at his colleague, Naira of the Delhari Ascendancy, whose bioluminescent skin flickered with what Varek had learned to recognize as deep discomfort. "You've read the secondary file," Varek said. It was not a question. Naira's skin pulsed amber. "I've read the secondary file. And I think we should run the blood test before we say a single word to their representative." She folded 3 of her 4 hands neatly on the table. Standard Apex Protocol 7 applies to any species achieving multi-system colonization in under 5 centuries. We run the biological threat assessment. We classify. We decide. Varek nodded slowly. Protocol 7 had never actually been invoked in the Council's history. It had been written as a theoretical safeguard, a procedure designed for a civilization that shouldn't exist, yet by any reasonable metric of evolutionary development. Humanity had written its name all over that theoretical. The human representative arrived without ceremony. Varek had expected something more dramatic, perhaps an escort, some display of military hardware, a delegation of advisors. Instead, a single human female walked through the council chamber doors wearing what their translation matrix identified as business formal attire, carrying a flat rectangular device under one arm and holding a cup of something hot in her free hand. She was, by human standards, unremarkable. Medium height, brown skin, hair pulled back with an efficiency that suggested someone who had stopped caring about appearances approximately 3 crises ago. Her eyes, however, Varek noted this immediately, moved with the slow, deliberate calculation of something that was mapping every exit in the room before it had taken its second step inside. "Ambassador Reyes," Naira said, inclining her head in the Delhari greeting. "Thank you for attending. Thanks for having me." The human set her cup down on the edge of the council table without asking permission, then took the offered seat. "I was told there's a standard biological screening before the membership vote?" "Protocol 7, Varek confirmed. For species of accelerated development. A simple blood sample. Our medical station will return a full genetic threat assessment within the hour." Ambassador Reyes looked at him with an expression his translation matrix struggled to categorize. It filed it under amusement, subdued. "Sure," she said. "Go ahead." The results came back in 47 minutes. Varek stared at his data screen. Then he looked at Naira. Naira was already looking at him, her bioluminescence cycling through colors that had no diplomatic name. They were colors she used in private when she thought no one was watching. Colors that meant I was afraid of exactly this. The report header read, "Species Threat Assessment, Homo sapiens. Owner World, Earth, SOL System. Threat Classification, Unlimited. Assessment Notes, see attached, 7,000 pages." 7,000 pages. Varek opened the summary. The first paragraph noted that human DNA contained, within its baseline genome, active repair mechanisms that no other known species possessed at this level of efficiency. Cellular systems that didn't merely prevent damage but learned from it, cataloged it, and built resistance. The technical term the Council's xenobiologists used was adaptive somatic memory. The informal note at the bottom of the page, written by the junior analyst who had clearly been awake for too long, read simply, "They get stronger from being hurt." Not metaphorically, literally. The second section covered human neurochemistry. Specifically, the presence of compounds that, under conditions of extreme stress and mortal danger, increased cognitive function rather than impairing it. The Council's psychobiologists had a word for the closest analog in other species: shutdown response. In every known intelligent species, the brain under lethal threat began to simplify, to reduce, to default to instinct. In humans, it did the opposite. The third section Varek almost skipped. It was titled Cultural Transmission of Trauma, and he assumed it would be a sociological footnote. He read the first line and stopped. Human offspring are born with genetic memory encoding that carries the biochemical residue of their ancestors' survival events, creating a species that is, at the baseline level, partially pre-adapted to threats their individual lineage has already survived. He read it again. They were born pre-adapted. Every human alive carried the ghost of every crisis their bloodline had survived, written directly into their cells before they had ever opened their eyes. Varek closed the summary. He needed a moment. The results have returned, Naira said carefully, to Ambassador Reyes, who was on her second cup of hot liquid and appeared to be reading something on her flat device with the focused disinterest of someone waiting for a delayed transport. Reyes looked up. How'd we do? Naira's skin flickered. The threat classification is high. Unlimited, Varek said. There was no diplomatic version of that word. The classification is unlimited. Reyes set her device down. She looked between them with those slow, exit-mapping eyes. Is that a problem? She asked. It is, Varek said carefully, unprecedented. For the record, Naira added, with the tone of someone choosing their next words with surgical precision. The Council wishes to clarify that threat classification unlimited does not automatically preclude membership. It simply requires additional conversation. About what? Varek folded his hands. Ambassador Reyes, your species achieved interstellar travel 200 years ago. In that time, you have colonized 14 star systems, survived 3 separate first contact conflicts, 2 of which you initiated by accident, and recovered from an extinction-level asteroid impact on your third colony world in less than 19 years. He paused. 19 years. The Delhari Ascendancy's third world was lost to a solar event 4 centuries ago. We have not reclaimed it. Reyes said nothing. Your genetic profile, he continued, indicates a species that does not merely survive adversity. It indicates a species that is built from it. Architecturally, every generation of humanity has deposited something into the ones that followed. Every plague, every war, every ice age, every mass extinction you skirted, it is all still inside you. He met her eyes directly. Do you understand what that means to the rest of us? The ambassador was quiet for a long moment. Then she picked up her cup, found it empty, and set it back down with the quiet resignation of someone who had been in too many long meetings. It means you're scared, she said. Simply, without accusation. Neither Varek nor Naira answered. I get it, Reyes continued. If I read that file about a species I'd never met, I'd be scared too. She leaned back in her chair. But here's the thing about humans that I don't think your 7,000 pages covered. Which is? Naira asked. We're scared too. All the time. She gestured vaguely. At herself, at the chamber, at the vast darkness implied by every star map on the walls. You want to know why we expanded so fast? It wasn't ambition. It was anxiety. We spread out because we put every egg in one basket for 6,000 years, and we watched that basket nearly burn down about 100 times. We move fast because we know, genetically know, apparently, how quickly everything can go wrong. She looked at Varek. The threat level isn't a warning about what we want to do to the galaxy, she said. It's a record of what the galaxy already did to us. We're not unlimited because we're conquerors. We're unlimited because we kept surviving things that should have finished us, and we never, ever got to forget any of it. The council chamber was very quiet. Varek looked at the report still open on his screen. 7,000 pages of accumulated survival. Generations of near extinctions pressed into a double helix like flowers between the pages of a book, preserved and passed forward, an inheritance of resilience that no other species in 11,000 years of recorded history had ever matched. He thought about the asteroid impact on the third colony. 19 years. He thought about a species that had nearly been wiped out by ice, by plague, by its own wars, by cosmic accident, and had arrived at this table anyway, carrying a hot drink and a flat device, mildly irritated about the wait. He closed the report. The Apex Council, Varek said slowly, will require a full membership review. Standard process. 30 days. Ambassador Reyes nodded and reached for her empty cup, seemed to remember again that it was empty, and put it down. We'll need better coffee in the waiting room, she said. We will provide whatever you require, Naira said. Reyes smiled, small, tired, the smile of something that had survived long enough to find bureaucracy funny. That's what I figured, she said. In the private record logs of Counselor Varek, filed under restricted access, the final annotation on the human membership file read, "Threat level, unlimited. Recommend acceptance." Notes. They already know how dangerous they are. They're more afraid of losing than we are of them winning. That distinction matters. That distinction might be everything.